Another night of delays. The Quincy City Council continuing to delay the sale of the city's downtown annex. This comes after several weeks of tabling the issue at other meetings.
WGEM's Shakayla McCamick joins us live in Quincy with what's holding the council back from making the decision. Shakayla.
Good evening, Daniel and Mackenzie. The Quincy City Council is again tabling a proposal for the city of Quincy to sell the annex building to Quincy Township. Now, Quincy Township is asking to purchase the annex building for $347,000. The township says they have excess personal property replacement tax funds they'd like to purchase the annex with. WGEM previously reported that the township was seeking to purchase the building because future renovation plans at City Hall would force township offices to move to the basement. But Mayor Mike Trope says City Hall renovation plans are not final yet, and he doesn't expect them to be completed before the end of 2024. He says he doesn't see a need to sell the building at this time.
I'm not convinced that the township office could not be accommodated here. If they don't want to move to City Hall, that's fine, but they need to look at what is the tax burden if they decide to buy the building. The maintenance costs, the repairs cost, etc.
Mayor Trope says he suggests the township board members look into either buying or renting another location before solely focusing on purchasing the annex building. Trope says he believes the best option to sell the annex building is through an auction, allowing any person who wants to place a bid do so to purchase. Live in Quincy, Shakayla McCamick, WGEM News.
Okay, thank you so much, Shakayla. Also discussed in council tonight, Mayor Mike Trope appointed Ilya Kukic to the Bet on Q committee as restaurant representative, and that started today and ends on March 31st, 2025. And then Alderman gave the okay to a bid for street and sidewalk maintenance, but the Illinois Department of Transportation still does have to approve that, and they said yes to giving $100,000 in TIF funds to renovate 4 rental units in the 200 block of North 6th Street.